This is Mac OS Ken.
What today may or may not bring, the Silicon Valley solution is headed to Silicon Valley, and 2 takes on Pro phones. It's Tuesday, the 8th of December, 2020. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get a free home security camera when you purchase a SimpliSafe system at simplisafecom/macosken. This show is also sponsored by Squarespace, your place online. What I love about Squarespace is the control that it gives me. The first couple of versions of macosken.com were built by other people. Other people who got real jobs and didn't have time to take care of my site. I was always stuck waiting until I tried Squarespace. Their beautiful, customizable templates and their drag-and-drop editing tools are so easy to use. I went from waiting days for my friends to fix my site to having the site I wanted up and running in a couple of hours. Am I saying you should fire your web guy or gal? No, I am not. I'm saying if the thing that's stopping you from starting a site is thinking you could never do it, you can totally do it with Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/macosken for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code MacOSKen to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Start your free trial today, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code MacOSKen to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain at squarespace.com/macosken. And a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's show. Apple may introduce a new thing today, and people think it could be the fancy schmancy over-the-ear headphones people think it's eventually going to make. Why do we think there's going to be a thing? Set the Wayback Machine for sometime last week, which feels like both 3 hours ago and 3 months. We heard then of an internal memo to service providers that indicated some sort of new hardware and an AppleCare Plus plan to go with it. Early rumors said the new hardware would probably be an updated Apple TV, though tipsters spent Monday trying to wave people off that idea. AirTags, Apple's anticipated Tile competitor, are seen as a possibility. I had a listener write to me wondering whether Apple might intro fitness equipment to go with Fitness Plus. Personally, I think this may be much ado about next to nothing. Maybe an Intel-based Mac for the enterprise or a new Apple Pencil. It's worth pointing out here I am basing that on nothing except wondering what would be small enough to warrant a press release or less. Monday night, AirPods Studio, the fancy schmancy headphones I mentioned, suddenly took the lead in the things Apple might announce today sweepstakes. A number of pieces, including one from Apple Insider, eyed that idea. Maybe. It's worth noting there may be no new product today. Then pity the poor planet. It'll have to make do with new Apple Watches, iPads, iPhones, Macs, and a HomePod Mini. And you say, with so little, what's the point in going on? It'll be exciting if something exciting happens, and nothing like disappointing if it does not. Hey, good news, California. You are finally getting access to potentially life-saving technology from California. Half a year after the release of the Apple-Google contact tracing exposure notifying API, the Golden State is finally flipping the switch on a contact tracing exposure notifying system using the Apple-Google API. The Mac Observer says California Governor Gavin Newsom announced on Monday that the state is ready to launch its COVID-19 exposure notification app. So soon? Are you sure? Maybe we should give it more time. Called CA Notified, the piece says the system will go live on Thursday. Governor Newsom took to Twitter with news, saying, "Grateful for the partnership of Sundar Pichai and Tim Cook in harnessing the innovation of California to launch this new tool to help slow the spread of COVID-19 during this pivotal time." Oh, now is the pivotal time. Silly me. I thought that was like Striking a less cynical tone than yours truly, Apple CEO Tim Cook took to Twitter as well, saying, "As we work together to fight the rise in cases in California, exposure notifications will help slow the spread of COVID-19 and put our neighbors' health first. Thanks to you, Gavin Newsom, and Google for helping bring California Notify to Californians while putting privacy at the very center." Now, lots and lots of people in the state have to start using it. That'll be the next big trick. More good news for Apple around the iPhone 12 line. MarketWatch ran a piece Monday highlighting a note from JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee. According to that note, according to the piece, lead times for the iPhone 12 Pro and iPhone 12 Pro Max continue to build, which, given that it has now been a few weeks since these specific SKUs have been available, is a favorable indicator of customer demand. The wait for iPhone 12 Pro stands at about 27 days, according to the analyst. That is the longest wait he has tracked since the phone's first week of availability. Conversely, says MarketWatch, lead times for the less expensive iPhone mini and iPhone 12 are tracking lower than they did last week. Chatterjee has an overweight rating on Apple's shares. His price target on the shares is $150. Seeing something similar, though with less positivity, is UBS analyst David Vogt. Philip Elmer-DeWitt's Apple 3.0 ran part of the Vogt note, which had him noting better trends for iPhone 12 Pro this year versus iPhone 11 last year, but dwelling on improving availability of iPhone 12 Pro Max. On the 12 Pro, the analyst says, 5 weeks post-launch, iPhone 12 Pro availability is meaningfully less than that of iPhone 11 Pro, suggesting a greater demand on a year-on-year basis. Consistent with the data in our smartphone survey, consumer preference appears to suggest the feature set, notably the triple camera combined with the price point, are key attributes driving purchase intent toward the 12 Pro compared to the other models. As for the 12 Pro Max, Vogt says wait time for that phone in the US and other regions has slipped from about 27 days to about 16. UBS had been expecting the average selling price for iPhone to slip. They had started to think that maybe not when iPhone 12 Pro and iPhone 12 Pro Max came charging out of the gate. Now, though, the analyst says a decline in Pro Max availability just 2 weeks post-launch could put more pressure on blended ASP. For his part, Elmer DeWitt says Vogt has been a glass-half-empty kind of guy from the get-go. The UBS analyst has a neutral rating on Apple's shares. His price target on the shares is $115, close to $9 under Apple's Monday close of $123.75. More news in a moment, but first a word from SimpliSafe, the right way to protect your home. You might think of home security as protecting you from break-ins. SimpliSafe does that, but it can do more. Fire protection, flooding, sending help during a medical emergency. SimpliSafe Home Security delivers award-winning 24/7 protection for as many or as few of those issues as you like. You can either take their suggested packages or order individual components to build the system that's right for you. And installation is easy. Took me about half an hour to get my sensors and keypad in place. Super simple. If you've been considering it, now is an excellent time to try, because right now my listeners get a free home security camera when you purchase a SimpliSafe system at simplisafecom/macOSKen. You also get a 60-day risk-free trial, so there's nothing to lose. Visit simplysafe.com/macOSKen for your free security camera today. That's simplysafe.com/macOSKen. And thank you to SimpliSafe for sponsoring today's show. Sometimes I come across a story that I don't want to do for some reason, yet feel compelled to do for others. Bloomberg ran one of those on Monday. According to the report, Apple is working on more Apple silicon that it thinks will outclass top-end PCs. Why don't I want to do this story? Because of course they are, and of course they do. They felt like they were being held back by Intel, which powers top-end PCs. You think they went into this thinking, I hope nobody notices our computers are worse now. Having started with entry-level machines this fall, Bloomberg says the company's next series of chips, planned for release as early as the spring and later in the fall, are destined to be placed across upgraded versions of the MacBook Pro, both entry-level and high-end iMac desktops, and later, a new Mac Pro workstation, the people said. Those would be people who didn't want to use their names because, breathing. Maybe I've got too much faith, but I'm not sure why this story caught fire the way it did. Maybe it was the timeline of products that the piece laid out. I'm skipping that here because 1, it could be incorrect, 2, it could change, and 3, it has Apple completing the Intel to Apple Silicon transition sometime in 2022, or put another way, in a couple of years, which is what Apple said when it announced the transition. Good news! That thing Apple said it was doing, secret people say Apple is still doing it. More as it develops. An update Monday for Apple's Magic Sound machines. Cult of Mac says Apple on Monday released version 14.2.1 of the software for HomePod and HomePod Mini. The release notes say next to nothing, just that the update includes general performance and stability improvements. Stabs and perfs. From the Playing Well with Others file, Engadget says Apple's streaming music service has found its way to smart speakers made by Google. According to the report, Google announced Monday that Apple Music is now rolling out to Assistant-enabled speakers and displays like the Nest Audio, Nest Hub Max, Nest Mini, and more. Apple Music subscribers can ask the Assistant to find and play your songs, albums, and playlists using their voice after they link their accounts in the Google Home app. If you're deep in the Apple ecosystem, that news might be surprising. Turns out it's just a day that ends in Y for the speakers. Engadget says Apple Music joins a robust list of streaming services that work on Google's devices, including YouTube Music, Spotify, Pandora, Deezer, radio stations, and more. As of Monday, the piece says Apple Music is accessible on Google's hardware in France, Germany, Japan, the UK, and the US. And finally today, remember when Apple announced that it would not be including power adapters with iPhones going forward, and Samsung made fun of Apple for it? Posted to the socials about how its phones still included power adapters. You know where this is going, right? Just as Samsung removed the headphone jack from its phones after mocking Apple for doing it first, Sammy is set to ship future phones without power adapters. MacRumor says a filing with Brazilian regulatory agency Anatel approves the new Galaxy smartphone models for sale. The documentation has few details about the new devices, but it apparently confirms that none of the 3 new smartphones that are coming will be sold with charger or headphones. Wondering what Samsung will do next? It seems having a look at what Apple's done recently may give you an indication. Coming up in a few minutes, Monday it was news to Chuck Joyner of Mac Voices. Today it is new to Chuck. Hardware, operating systems. Apple's introduced a lot of stuff this fall. What's Chuck got and what does he think? Find out in a few minutes. Available wherever you get podcasts or on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/KenRay. Yesterday on macOS Ken Live, I did a dive on hardware as a service, plus thoughts on what Apple might intro today. Catch the replay on my YouTube channel or grab the audio podcast, macOS Ken Live, wherever you get podcasts. And if you're free today at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, join me live for macOS Ken Live. That happens live at youtube.com/KenRay. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Squarespace. Get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain with offer code macOSKen at squarespace.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get a free home security camera when you purchase a SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.